What is up? So these are facts. I will be covering that layout. I'll be covering it tomorrow. So I will still be covering it on stream. But I had to break things up. I actually was asked to cover the CPXL layout before you asked to cover the NRPL layout. But I got asked to cover a ton of layouts this weekend, so I had to figure out a way to like separate it all. I got asked to cover the TSXL layout, a layout that Brock is playing in, the CPXL, the Golden State Open, and there's one other that I'm missing. So it was just too many layouts for me to cover in one stream, but I will be covering it tomorrow at some point. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. I apologize it's not in like tonight's live stream. So thank you so much for you guys tuning in and hanging out. Welcome. As the title suggests, we are going to be covering the CPXL layout in tonight's stream. I gotta actually pull it up here real quick. If you guys are longtime viewers, not subscribers, be sure to click the subscribe button. It helps me out a great deal. If you guys are longtime subscribers and enjoy the content, enjoy the live streams, consider becoming a member. You can also donate to the stream if you want, but I'm not suggesting you do. But just, you know, however you guys care to support, if you want to support it, if you just want to watch, that's totally fine too. But like I said, we're going to cover the CPXL layout tonight. We will be talking about the Golden State layout at some point. Not sure if it's going to be in this stream or how we're going to do that, but it will be happening. So there's a few other things. I am planning to be at World Cup this year. So I don't have any details as far as where I'll be, if there's going to be a social media meet and greet sort of thing, and if I'm even going to be a part of that. But I am planning to be at World Cup this year. So if you guys are going to be there, I would love to have like a meet and greet, hangout sort of thing, whatever. Hopefully by then, you guys will be able to purchase some either dry fit tees or jerseys, SVP dry fit tees and jerseys. If you don't know what those look like or you're curious to learn more, be sure to join the Discord server. The link is in the description. It is in literally every description of every video I ever make, and it is definitely worth being there. We are almost to 500 people in the Discord server, which is pretty insane. And we had a pretty fun conversation today about if you could spend $1,300 on a paintball marker, which one would you buy? That was almost an instantaneous chain of replies of people very passionately arguing about which gun they think you should buy. So I'm very active on the Discord server, as most people know by this point. So if you have questions for me, I am super available there. Please be sure to join the Discord server. But without further delay, let's get into the layout here real quick. Definitely going to be there, going to play the event, set it up. I think my team is going to cup. The Discord went crazy. Yeah, dude, the Discord server went absolutely bonkers today. So, all right. As you guys know, the very first thing we always do at this point, I should come up with some kind of phrase for this, is we draw the lines. We draw the lines. While we wait, we hydrate. Usually the first lines I draw are any sort of tape lines or any sort of lines where the number one is primarily working. And then from there, it gets a little trickier beyond that point. And in this case, it is about as tricky as you'd expect. So this is probably where I draw those lines. Obviously subject to interpretation. These lines could be drawn in so many different places, but we draw these lines because it helps inform us as to where we would likely find a person in the breakout, right? So if we kill somebody within one of these zones, we can instantly move to the next zone to find probably the person behind them. The snake widest zone is always Arizona or Charger. The zone behind that is Oklahoma, then Texas. You could call it Utah as well, but we're going to call it Texas, Nevada, and Iowa, and or Dragon. If you don't know what I mean by any of this, if you only want to use simple zones, which would be the outermost zones, use Charger and then use Dragon, which is just to say that if there's nobody in one of these zones, you should shout that to your team so that informs what your front player should do. So that should tell your front player, oh, that means I should play on the outside of the field, wrap and go, get up the field as far as I can, while just simply checking off wherever the second guy is going to be to stop me, okay? But if you want to get more advanced, add the other zones into the mix. Sorry, let me turn this down a little. All right, so after we do that, the next thing that we like to do on this stream, on this channel, as you guys know, is walk the baseline. So what we're primarily looking for is any sort of obvious zones, any interesting cheeky drop shots, so on and so forth. This is definitely, you know, a huge gap for the home guy to shoot, especially at you. Very difficult to shoot back at that, but it is possible. As we get further out, even more so, this gap right here is big for the home guy to be shooting at the Dorito runner. So when we find those gaps that are very key, so for example, this gap is very key because this person could be shooting this zone or shooting this stream of paint the entire time, well before you even get to this spot, making their shots very accurate. However, the only trick to that is that the difference between shooting a stream of paint here and shooting a stream of paint here is slightly different. It's not really different, at least not as much, not so much so compared to other sorts of gaps like that. But these are meaningfully different shots to be shooting paint. So that is to say that if you are struggling to survive going into one of these two bunkers, either to the corner running baseline or into the Dorito straight in, you can kind of alternate between the two, and use that as a way to increase your survivability. Otherwise, that's interesting to note. So this is the first gap. We also are curious to look at any sort of cross shots in the primary bunkers for the number 2s, because that is a very common thing. That's a very common strategy, especially given certain layouts, that the number 2s on either side of the field will actually have better shots cross field than they will heads up. So that's the other thing that we like to look for. And in this case, it really only looks like that if you wanted to shoot any sort of inside or cross shot on this layout, that you would shoot back at the home, which may or may not be worth it. Otherwise, you do have a bit of a weird gap to shoot. You could drop some paint here or paint here. You could shoot the corner, but that's not a great shot, so that's kind of weakish in my opinion. Taking a look at the snake side, then we have this gap here, which you'd have to be standing in a dead zone, which is possible. So if that person wanted to shoot at you, it would be the number 2 very likely standing in a dead zone shooting you here. Even more so, if you wanted to be safer and shoot from the home, you have this gap here. So the same 2-ish gaps. This right here is probably safe. Well, let's see from the home's perspective, actually, which would be easier to shoot. Okay, interesting. So the home would actually have a much better chance shooting you after the god. This gap is pretty small. So this inside gap right here is pretty safe. This gap right here is dangerous. So that means that if you are struggling to survive the snake, just go to the god, this little Aztec right here, and you're good to go. So interesting. Coming out further then to the corner. Usually if you pass a certain point within the baseline, you are clear for takeoff, essentially. So what's interesting is that you have a few choices. You can either run out to the corner going baseline, or you can actually run out right here and go straight into the snake. Because if you cross this gap right here, if you cross that gap, you're free to go into the snake. Obviously, this is the primary concern. So the difference between, you know, you could still make a play where you go to the snake off break, but instead of running straight into it, you actually run baseline and then go in. And this, depending on, you know, where the paint is landing, if they're shooting this zone here or on the baseline, or really anywhere in between this, you can kind of change your routes. Again, this is a difference. In this case, it is not a meaningful, like it's not a, I don't want to say meaningful difference. It is a meaningful difference, but it's not a huge difference between these two routes. So something to consider when running that. You know, you might run the baseline and they weren't really shooting for you, but they still kill you. It happens. It's paintball. So then when you get out to the corner, then yeah, you're pretty safe. Not a true tape, but it does have an interesting kind of, it's kind of a blind shot. If you actually play your bunker, it's sort of a blind shot. You could put paint over the top of this and maybe kill somebody standing up, but just that's something to be aware of. And what's interesting is that if you want to wrap and actually put pressure on the god to stop them, like here or here, you have to expose yourself to that drop shot, because otherwise you could probably go low and shoot the landing zone where they're going to be. So here's a different angle for that. So you can either directly challenge someone's positioning by shooting right at them to stop them, or you can instead take the safe-ish route and shoot where they're going to be. It's small, but it's a difference between exposing your loader and not. So that shot does exist for sure. Going out then to this corner bunker here. It's kind of a crappy bunker. No idea what you would use this for. When you might be able to surprise people, but gunfighting from these cakes is really hard. Very, very hard. So what would be the purpose? What if you came here? So interesting. If they stop at the god, if for whatever reason they're pulling up short and you make it to the corner, you still have this shot to worry about. I'm not sure if they'd be shooting for it, because by the time you made the clear, they might not be expecting it. But you could either run low and dive right here and get into the snake, or you might be able to run around this cake and you're essentially clear to run and dive all the way into this 50 right here. And then I would take this challenge right away. I would shoot this right away. So if you are running to the god and you suspect that somebody beat you into the snake or into the corner in this position, I would probably suggest that you first dump a bunch of paint right here. And if they pass that, I would dump a bunch of paint right here. Or you could take that opportunity to fight the inside guy and then break out and get to the snake. It's up to you. But let's keep looking then really quickly. So getting up into the snake then, we have, so what we're trying to figure out, and now that we've, sorry, I need to back up for a second. We've talked about the zones, we've talked about the baseline shots that exist, and then the next thing that we look for is what each side's first kill is going to be in every position, right? This is generally speaking what we look at. I didn't look at the crossfield shots here, but there's really nothing. There's just nothing. You could maybe hold the Dorito side from this god. I don't know why you would, but you could do that. I don't think that's a better spot to hold it from than anywhere up in this Dorito. This is kind of a hard spot to hold the Doritos from, but let's look at the snake really quick. So in the snake, when you get to the snake one, the very first thing we like to do is just who's going to stop you from your advance, and then who are the people that you can kill for free. Because you're really looking for, as people know, next packs and backs, as Rusty Glaze would say it. So nothing so far is super free here. And then if we look at who would stop you, there's really nobody who can stop you going to snake 2. So as far as I can tell, there's really no reason to stop. I would just go to here so far. No free kill, but you do have an inside shot into the Doritos that you could surprise the guy with. Which is always good to check for, because as we've talked about with Dorito gunfighting, and especially ways to like push up the field, Dorito players will often use that inside shot to surprise their heads up opponents and then take the outside route, right? So sometimes as a snake player, you can get lucky by coming up over the top of your bunker and looking for that shot right away, because as we've said, moves are generally safer to make within the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point. So if you got to the snake 2 off break, essentially came here and stood up, or rather, got up from your bunker, you might be surprised that you find somebody sliding into this bunker or killing them, right? Because that's the Dorito 1 essentially. So not unheard of. If we look further inside the fields, you do have a shot at the home guy, but here's something to consider. If I have to choose between shooting at a person that could shoot me or moving up the field, I would take moving up the field every time. The only reason that would not be the case is if my survivability is drastically decreased and my lethality, I guess you could say, is not that improved, right? I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm easily ran down or it's hard to survive when I can't really even produce very many kills in that position. And there are definitely layouts that are like that. There's a few layouts, I can't remember, I think it was last year, there was a layout where people were essentially able to get to the 50 if they took the snake bite first, but as soon as you got to the 50, you got ran down, and at best you got like 1 kill at best. Okay, so then the question is, who is stopping me? So far, the only shot that you would even maybe consider is this Dorito 2 shot, but I don't even know if I would stop for that. And instead, if you now, this guy cross might be a problem, or if somebody takes the bite up the middle right here, they would be a problem. So obviously head check this. This would be the first. This what I try to understand is I try to systematize the route. So I know, okay, there's no reason to stop here, no reason to stop here. When I get here, this is the first person I shoot. Once I've shot that, this is the thing I need to check off, and then I take the bite. So that's what we're doing. So the first thing I would do is head check the middle. If nobody's in the middle, get to here. And then your inside shot, your first shot, I would probably suggest putting some paint here. That's probably the first thing I would do if you got to this bunker. I would not bother wrapping right here. So generally speaking, this is also true. You do not want to try and find people on the inside of the field. Okay, it's okay to be gun battling at certain instances on the inside of the field, or it's okay to check off somebody on the inside of the field, but you do not want to try and find people from the inside of the field, and it's very simple as to the reasons why. Especially if you haven't ran the field as much as you should have, you don't generally want to scan the field this direction, because the distance between, like, the amount of bunkers you have to check off in your brain to see if people are in it, if you wrap this direction, is exponentially greater than the amount of bunkers you have to check off if you were to just do this instead, right? Because we're primarily concerned when we're in this bunker, we want to know who's the free kill, which is the corner guy, and then all we really want to do after that is fight the people that are heads up from us, or surprise somebody in the middle, right? But we can't really see the middle because of these pins. And so that, and if we do decide to find this guy at the Aztec, at the God, or I guess it's, yeah, at the God bunker, we have to risk our body so much greater. CPXL, yeah, we can talk about that after this layout. I plan to. You have to check off so much more to see this person. So instead, all you have to do in this case is scan the tape and then scan further, right? So that by the end of it, all you've really covered is these cluster of bunkers. And we also know, given just the zones, that there's likely one person to be in the snake and one person to be in one of these two bunkers. Okay, it's possible for the guy to be here and the guy to be here, but if we scan on the tape side of things, we can usually pick that up pretty quickly. If we see the guy in the corner and a guy here, we saw like paint coming from the inside, well, now we know that there's nobody in the snake, right? It's very likely that nobody's in the snake, at least, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's then look heads up. Kind of a crappy battle, to be honest with you. I wouldn't probably take this shot against the corner guy unless you had to, but you could probably ignore him to an extent as long as you do it tight. But you could probably get to this 50. So who's going to stop you? Like I said, the first challenge I would make if I got here and there was nobody wider than the God, which is this bunker, I would challenge this instantly. I would try to get that guy to flinch. As soon as he flinched or freaked out, I would dive instantly into this snake, and I would not take this inside challenge. This is a huge bait. Do not do this, okay? This will get you killed right away, and the reason is because the difference between the angle of him shooting at you at the wedge behind you and this is insignificant, okay? You can take this challenge. You can do this one. If you want to surprise the guy, you can do the over the top. I know the argument's still the same. It's the same angle, but I promise you that if he knows you took the bite, he's going to look for you here. He's going to look for you here. He's not going to look for you here unless he just didn't see you make the move and he started pumping paint in this zone. In that case, don't just go into it, right? But now we see that the other first kill that we can make is very likely this Dorito guy. Okay, it's not guaranteed. He might be playing harsh on this side of the field, but if you get to the snake 50 really quickly, this would be the first person I would look for. You could take a back step as well and definitely kill the corner guy if you weren't able to before, but this is a tight enough gap that I'm not sure that this will exist at the actual layout. It might be really wide. It might be non-existent. It just depends. After that, the next person that I would check off is this tower guy to see if he's doing anything on the inside of the field or just if you can get a pack. And then you could check off the home guy. I would probably do that if he's not shooting at you already, because if nothing else, you'll get him to play on this side of the field, and you might get him to play on this side of the field, and you might pinch him out as a result of that, right? Especially if you just dumped a bunch of paint here or rather like, 10, 20 balls or something. What you don't want to do, this is a big rule of thumb for this layout. What you do not want to do is to get into this 50 and have no support behind you. Like if your guy behind you died, you can't really afford to do that inside shot, because as soon as you take this shot, this guy's going to be here. This guy's going to take that bite. especially if he sees your paint going this way. So just be very aware, be very weary that if you're up here all alone and you don't really hear your teammate behind you, you really need to protect yourself. You need to play heads up, protect yourself, protect your tape. Once we get here, obviously the corner is an issue now. We can't really ignore the corner anymore. This shot is not terrible to take over the top, but the problem is going to be the home guy if he starts looking at you, because then this makes this really awkward. Your only other option is to get really low and essentially shadow the bunker that's in front of you and hope the ball doesn't drop down on the top of your mask. Not a great thing. This you can die very easily here thinking that you're very safe, because if they even blind shoot you, like let's say you get really low and getting prepared to snap out on this tower guy, even if you get right here and he doesn't see you but he decides to shoot paint at you, he can very likely drop a ball into the top of your loader or on the top of your head. So this is not a great challenge. I would probably try to avoid that. So maybe the route is in fact to shoot these inside guys, get these, and then go here. You could probably go underneath this guy's paint, this Aztec, if he was shooting at you. So, and then once you do so, obviously when you crawl down, now you can challenge this guy much safer. So if there isn't a corner guy, obviously you don't need to worry about that. But if there is a corner guy, I'd be a little worried about challenging him from the tape. That would be my suggestion. I would probably not do that. Once you get to this wedge now, assuming there isn't a guy in the corner, this snake 2 is super close. So assuming he's not in the snake 2 either, now when you low wrap, or now when you get here, you have 3 free kills. This tower, this cake or can is almost assuredly a free kill. This corner guy is a free kill, and this tower guy is a free kill. If you go even further, if you wrap even further, again, you're still blinded by the god. You now have this guy and this guy that you're super free. You can even keep blinding the god guy and essentially clear out their entire Dorito side. Look at that. You can kill every single Dorito player from this position. Every single one you can kill from this bunker. Obviously, you're on their side of the snake, right? And very far up on their side. But it's a pretty safe route to take, which means if you are in this bunker, like let's say this is your... Oh, sorry. Let's back up. Let's say that this is your positioning, okay? You don't have anybody in these 2 bunkers. So, for example, you decided to do a 3-man push this direction. And so your only positioning is here and here. And it's possible that you double up the home, right? Things happen. We haven't looked at that exactly yet, but it's possible. So let's say, for example, this is the case. If you see somebody dive into the snake and beat you, you have to fight to get into the snake as fast as possible. Because if you get stuck here while they are in the snake, we just found that there's nothing stopping them from taking this route and even getting as far up into your side of the snake and killing every single Dorito player without you even being able to see them. So, you know, we talk about, what's up, Eric? We talk about taking informed gunfights, taking smart gunfights. This is an example of that. If you found yourself being paced into the snake in that god bunker, you have to find the guy that's stopping you and get there ASAP. Okay, so let's look at the inside route in the snake then. So if we get to the god, so huge zones, by the way, huge zones in the heads up battle. And these 2 positions, that'll be a really hard thing to fight out from if you both get stuck in the god, because you can't see each other. You can't see each other make this move. So absolutely. So what that means then, so if you guys remember in my mid-player breakout video, you really don't want to leapfrog if you can help it, right? Because any paint that's coming this guy's way is going to hit the guy that's running behind him, very likely. However, it's very likely that the 2 people that are going to be shooting at each other in this case are those who are shooting the landing zones opposite of each other, right? So this guy's, the guy that's going to be shooting you to prevent you from this guy from moving is going to be putting his paint right here, which at that point is free for him to make this outside move. So if you're struggling to survive on the snake side and you decide to pull up short and then do 3 people over here, just know that that's an option. If this guy's like, hey, I can't get into the snake because they're dumping a bunch of paint into this little zone right here, then it's possible for you to leapfrog into the corner. And as soon as you do, you then can challenge. You can either draw this guy's gun or you can just directly challenge him and get your player in, which this is a power position, right? This guy's ability to oppress the god is way stronger than this guy's just hoping he doesn't cross in his zone, right? Because for that same reason, the guy can leapfrog behind him. So, okay. Good to know. Any inside routes? The home guy could shoot you if you decided to do it, but you could take an inside route where you blind, as long as you know that the, like, so say for example, you just get stuck. You're just stuck forever. No, actually, I don't think I would do this, but if you were the number 2 in this position for whatever reason, you could take this route where you use the pin to blind the home and then get here. The home would not even see you make that move. And now all of a sudden you're in a really good spot to surprise. Actually, I would do that move. That's actually a pretty good move. So let's say, for example, you're here and you're kind of stuck. You could even probably send your middle guy to do this route. But if you decided that, hey, like, there's nothing, I can't get into the snake, I may as well do something else. What you could do is send this guy to the corner still to get some kind of coverage, and then this guy goes, excuse me, this guy goes here and sets up the trap, and it becomes the number 2. So that all this guy has to do is shoot this dude. This corner guy has to shoot the god a few times to get him to flinch and then give up the control. And this guy's going to try to win it back. And as soon as he does, he's going to take the bite. And when he does take that bite, this guy will kill him. That's a cheeky way to kill the god guy. I'm not sure you would even need to do that, because if I was the middle guy, so here's the danger. I would probably just do this if I was the middle guy. So if I was primarily concerned with the snake side of the field, okay, if I was like, hey, their snake guys are really scary, they're super strong, every time they get into the snake 50 they kill us, what I would probably do is just shoot the snake way first 5 seconds of the point. If you see that they stop, if they stop here at the god and you've got them contained, well, then I would just run up the middle. You probably don't have to worry about anybody in the Dorito. You might need to worry about the Dorito 1 guy, which we can look at that in a second. But you could just come here. I don't even think you need to stop at this can, but you could, I guess. You could stop at the can if you wanted, and then hold this zone. And then, again, further going up the field. Now, boom. You're so far up the field. There's no way they're getting into the snake now, right? This is a super strong trap. The only way to break this open is for somebody to match that and then run the other guy down, right? So if, for example, I was here and I was holding this for, I don't know, 2 minutes, I would expect somebody to try and match me in the brick and try to run me down, either on the Dorito side or the snake side. But we'll look at the Dorito side in just a second. So if I look at the Dorito side, then up the middle. So these pins are really good for blinding in certain angles, right? We said that this angle into the snake is really strong, and then this angle up the middle is pretty strong. You saw a lot of teams pushing up to that brick this past weekend right away. Some teams even running 2 in that brick. Okay, interesting. Man, why are people not giving me these layouts before people have practiced it? Oh, well. Okay. Because Matt the Gym Rat asked me to look at this, so I just assume when people ask me to look at layouts that nobody's played on it yet, but that's fine. All right, so if we look at the Dorito side, then what we're looking at, even 2 running to that brick, that's interesting. So this is a huge gap, right? Very big gap. This is a decent-ish gap. You could still kill the Dorito guy there, but it's up to you. Otherwise, going up to the middle then, running and gunning this would be too hard. And I wouldn't even stop here if I was looking the Dorito way. You could if you look the snake way. You don't really need to. I don't think you need to. So it would just be to protect yourself from getting run down. But if you continued, then this is a really strong gap to hold from the middle right here, and hit the like button. Yes, these are facts is correct. If you're watching live right now, please hit the like button. Helps the video out a lot, guys. It helps the video out a great deal. That's a really strong gap. If you wanted to wrap, I don't know why Guns Up does this sometimes, but sometimes it just like skips around. But if you wanted to even challenge the tower guy, you could. I wouldn't probably do that because you'd have to be shooting paint here to kill the guy if he took the bite really quickly. And if you did, you'd be revealing your position. And even if you didn't shoot until you saw him move, well, now he knows you're there and you missed your shot, right? So I would probably, unless nobody, I should say this, if nobody is in this Dorito zone, like from here over, there's no one, then I would probably do it. And I would probably just shoot paint. I wouldn't even worry about revealing the fact that I'm here doing this, because you're just applying so much pressure by doing that. But yeah, otherwise, if they've made it out to the Doritos or the corner, I would probably just give that up, and I would just look right here and wait for that gap. The wedge is going to have a hard time stopping you. They could clip your loader if you're not playing tight enough, but otherwise, if the wedge tries to challenge you from this angle, that's going to be really good for you and really bad for them. But again, the biggest scare factor in this middle bunker is getting run down because you're so close to each other that, like, really in a tournament, if I were needing to run that guy down and I wrapped here and there was nobody, I would just commit to this run. I don't care where the snake guy is. I don't think there's any way the snake guy is going to hit you before you get to this dude, or if he does, it's probably just going to be a trade. Always possible for that not to be the case, but okay, let's look at the Dorito side then. So going up to this bunker here, again, there are some cross shots, which it looks like if these guys were taking the middle off the break, depending on which side they were doing it on, which is safer to do it on the snake side, this might be a not a bad shot, right? It's going to be hard to hit them, but if you come here and you shoot this gap, you might get them. It's pretty hard. That's a hard gap, but I don't know, because otherwise the alternative is to come out here and try to shoot over one of these valleys, and that's not a great shot either. So otherwise, if you low wrap, you have a super safe route. So if you low wrap, look here, you have a super safe route to get up to this wedge. So if we take that bite, then we then have a really crappy heads up battle. So what makes this crappy is for several reasons. One, if you try to shoot at your guy heads up, well, now you're kind of exposing yourself to a lot of people, right? You're exposing yourself to the Doritos and this corner guy. You're even exposing yourself into drop shots from the guy behind the wedge, which I don't think would happen, but it is possible. So that's not good. If you tried to blind that out, you certainly can, but it just becomes a really awkward battle. This is such a bad angle to fight from. We've talked about it several times on stream. Try not to fight from this angle as much as you can, but it also means that if you try to just hold the guy, if you just try to hold the widest dude using this wedge, let's say from the Dorito 1, well, I mean, at least on guns up, there's not really a whole lot of angles I can do this at where my loader is not a problem, right? Where my loader is not in threat of being shot at by my mirror if they go to the wedge as well. So I don't know. This is not a great bunker. What's interesting, however, is this low wrap. Look at this. This is an interesting route, or interesting wrap. So low wrapping right here, shooting at the home. Really great. Super good way to surprise somebody. If you don't see them there, you can always low wrap the next one and find out if he's here, which actually makes me think this is not a good bunker to stop at, right? Because that's a pretty tough spot to be in if you're that can guy. And then you can low wrap even further to see if there's somebody on the bricks watching your Dorito guy, because this would be a good way to kill him, is this low wrap right here, which looks like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't look as good as I thought, because this is essentially the same angle, right? But anyway, something to consider. Otherwise, if you do low wrap and nobody's there, well, now when you get to here, that snake 2 to snake wedge bump is no longer free. That is not a free move anymore. Obviously, being this far up on the Dorito side, looking cross is not great. We don't want to do that, generally speaking. It's not a good habit to build, but something you can do. And this is kind of a hard angle to hold, because if the guy takes the tall stand to challenge, he actually could see your loader if he did this. Maybe not. Maybe if you backed up really well. But like, this is a really hard angle to hold, because you have to be shooting paint into this zone to stop them from just diving into it. It gives you the intel you might need, but otherwise this is pretty hard. Randy Ortiz, welcome. Welcome. So I'm not sure I would try to do any sort of zone control from this bunker. You could certainly, yeah, I mean, you could kill the Dorito 3 if you tried to move to Dorito 4, probably pretty easy. But if he finds out that you're here, not a great spot for you to be honest. But it is possible to do some damage from this position. Standing up inside shots, that's interesting. So if you get here, and let's say they're traffic jammed on the snake side, you have a pretty decent shot on the guy here. You might be surprised. I don't think the snake guy would be worried about anybody in this position, but it's also probably not likely that you'll be at this wedge before they are out of the god. It's possible, but so maybe the answer to this puzzle is like, all right, if you're going to take this wedge off the break, you're doing it to support the snake side, in which case you go here and then you shoot this dude and pinch him out. And the best way to do that would be to get a guy into the corner off break. So you could very easily bingo the snake side in kind of a crazy creative way by taking this route and setting up this pinch. And then you say, all right, we're going to send a guy to the corner and we're going to keep him here. So if you find that the teams you're playing against are pulling up short on the snake side or going to the god almost every point, you might try that and see if it works. I think it could work pretty well. Again, I think probably a better alternative to that is probably just sending a guy up the middle and baiting this move. It's probably the only downside to that, again, is the fact that you have to worry about getting run down yourself and trading. That would be the biggest issue. So... which this position actually protects that. So if this guy, if for example you send a guy to the middle, so I know you just said earlier that people have been sending 2 up the middle, and I assume one's looking, oh excuse me, you can't see that, one's looking this way and one's looking this way. I actually think a better alternative would be to send a guy here looking this way and perhaps this other guy looking here, or just doing what he was doing before where he's looking here, but now you have a dude overwatching him. The biggest issue to this is now you've traded your cross up that's very safe for a essentially double look and essentially doing the same job for potentially getting run down on the Dorito side. So that's probably not what I would do, but this is a really strong position to be in, I would think. Okay, let's look at the Doritos then and we'll be done. So Doritos, the corner, usually we are primarily concerned with what the wrap looks like. So obviously don't have a whole lot to do here. You could shoot this tower guy, but not, I mean, he might be the only guy that's stopping you from getting the Dorito in front. So, which actually then makes me think that this tower is pretty strong or pretty important because of this right here. That looks to be an important move. So, because look, if I can get that tower guy to flinch, he's probably the only one that's going to stop me. The home guy I could easily put in, but if I get this tower guy to flinch and there's a dude in the Dorito 1, well now all of a sudden, boom, I'm here. I'm in this Dorito 3 or Dorito 4, right? So interesting. So that would tell me then that what you probably should do as the number 2 on the Dorito side, if you want to play safe, is to come out to this corner. Shoot for heads up and try to contain this guy here. If you find that they get to the corner, you have to hold it from that position. But if they decide to pull up short or they just go to the Doritos, you could probably make the move we just talked about, where you then take a dive, go here, and you probably could hold them. It's just not great. It's not a great angle, but it is there. So... because again, if you don't contain them out of the corner, if you don't keep them in the corner, this guy is gone. The only way that is not the case is if the home guy goes up to the middle and looks Dorito way. So maybe that is the play. That maybe what you do is for a standard breakout, you send a guy here or the snake, one or the other. You send a guy to... You can't run these both. That's actually interesting. You can't really afford to run these guys out. No, that's not true. You could. Because that's the gap that they're dying in. So maybe the breakout is to do something like this, and then this guy comes here, goes here. Literally do whatever on the Dorito side, but then not a bad breakout, I think. Okay. Looking that heads up, you do have a little bit of a cheeky gap on the guy in the corner, which is a real thing. This is a gap that you could be able to shoot each other from, but I think if you get low enough, it might not be a problem. The tower guy is still a problem here, even though the shot didn't look as good on the other side. The shot doesn't look as good when you're playing the tower, but this is actually a pretty decent stop. This right here, that's not bad. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple blind. The middle guy is again going to be a huge problem. So that middle bunker is absolutely key. We're finding this out. I can see why people doubled those bunkers up. Those bunkers are the key to slowing down both the snake at the god and the Dorito side at the Dorito 1 or the corner. Because otherwise, look, if I beat the guy in front of me, if I beat the only person that's stopping me from moving, and the home guy or the middle guy is still at the home, well, now all of a sudden, boom, I'm here in this Dorito. And if I beat him one more time, well, boom, now I'm here in the Dorito 3, right? It's possible that they did the same thing, but what you don't want is to have two 1v1s. You don't want to have the only person that's stopping you in a 1v1, right? Because if your teammate's the guy that's got to hold them and all he's doing is fighting a bunch of 1v1s, it's very easy to let go of that containment. Whereas if you have two people or you have a zone you can control, it's much harder to get out of that. So I would suspect that if you don't make it to the snake off break, it's going to be a hard thing to break out of, and you'll probably have to do the corner route to get out of it, or you just have to be patient and wait till they drop their guns. And while you're being patient, you can decide to send somebody up the middle if you haven't already. But it looks to be that the Dorito side is going to be the fast push side off the break. It seems like it's an easier side to get to, and that this snake side is going to be harder to get into. But once you do, you can get super far. You can get really far. So no free kills. Oh, let's see. Let's take a look. You do have a... Wow, man, the God Bunker is really hard to survive in. You do have this shot here, which we know because of the wing that's right in front of us, the mini W. So that shot, if you get to this Dorito, you might consider taking his pause, but I don't know, man. I don't even know if it's worth it to take that pause, because again, if I'm here, all I really have to do is shoot the tape, and then I'm gone, dude. As long as there's nobody at that 50, I'm at this bunker. When you get here is when you will kill the corner almost for free. So that would be the first shot I would look at, and then maybe I'd shoot a couple balls at the snake too, just get him to be a little afraid, and then otherwise you just have a heads-up battle. And at this point, you can take the inside route. You can come here. Not a free kill. Snake could kill you, but that's also a shot to take. If for whatever reason they're stopped at this wedge, that's the first guy I would look at. So those are the two bunkers I would check off. I'd check the 40-ish snake, snake 1. Obviously, if there's a guy in the middle can, he's dead, but he was dead before. I wouldn't wrap this far. I would not do this. I wouldn't care about what the wedge is doing just yet. And then being here is kind of awkward. The corner guy could kill you over top, but if you wrap further, you can't see him, but he could probably see your hip / torso. And then interesting. It's really just a heads-up battle. So really the Dorito 1 guy has to survive. Whoever is in the Doritos, this is what I'll say. This guy needs to be a very good gunfighter and very good at surviving and essentially playing an island drill, because he's not going to have a whole lot of support. And by the time you get to any sort of position high up in the field, you need to be very good at snap shooting. Because the Doritos containment is contingent on there being one person alive in these cluster of bunkers. If that is not the case, if there's nobody alive in one of these bunkers and you get to the 50, then it's free game to wrap pretty basic bunkers, right? You can start chopping all these people off. But if that one dude is alive in this cluster of bunkers, it's going to be a lot harder for that 50 to do anything. Because look, I can't... The Dorito 1 is a straight up heads-up battle. This is a 50-50, if not so great for you and good for them. It's an easier angle to snap shoot from than it is for you. The corner guy could surprise you and shoot you without you even seeing him. If he's in this Dorito right in front... If he's in this Dorito right here, well, now it's even more awkward, because at any moment he could, if you decide to wrap really far, he could come and run you down on the tape. He can take an inside route. There's a lot of things he could do. So assuming that they're not in the corner and they're not in this Dorito 1, and maybe they're in this Dorito that's behind the one in front of us, you could shoot this guy. This home guy is dead for sure. But that's really the only free kill that you've got. There's no free kills on the inside of the 50. So it looks to be that you actually probably just want to stay here. If you get to this Dorito, you can do a lot of damage on the snake side. You can, like I said, pressure the corner. You can shoot the snake if he's super delayed. You can pressure the snake 1, and you can contain the zone right here. So all you really need to worry about is just having some kind of containment on the guy that would come and run you down, which could easily be done from this bunker. So if instead of sending your number 2 to go here, he just kind of follows behind you, but instead he goes here, well, now you've got this containment, which isn't bad. It's not great, but it's pretty okay, right? Especially if they stopped here for whatever reason. But if they're past that point, if they're in the 50s, then you don't really have much to do. You kind of need to get out of there. Otherwise, when you get to their Dorito, you know, same thing, right? Their God guy's free. Their corner's free. Could probably kill somebody here. Definitely kill somebody here. Home guy is dead for sure. Okay, so interesting. So what we have discovered... That wedge is not terrible when then you're fighting in this position, but here's what we've discovered. Super key important bunker. Super key important bunker. What was the other one? Very important route. This right here. This is a pretty cheeky route. This is a pretty cheeky route. This is a pretty decent route to suit as an alternative to 2 people here. 2 people in the middle. This one right here is an alternative to that. This gap is going to be hard to get out of. And the way you do is I think you'd send your number 3 or whoever's behind the God guy to the corner. I think is probably the best way to get out of it. Or if the gun drops, you can always go. But just you really have to be careful, guys. I can't emphasize this enough. If you're playing this layout and you're in the God and the paint stops and you're playing D3 or higher, you need to be very, very careful about just taking this bite, thinking that you're safe. Because oftentimes, again, if you have a code for it, these 2 people are going to be shooting at each other in this gap. And if one person drops that zone, you need to be aware that there's probably this guy baiting you for that move. Okay, and if you're playing this layout and you delay to up the middle to then hold the zone, you should have a word that tells this guy, hey, stop shooting your zone. I've set up the trap. I don't remember what we used to... I think we had a call for that at one point, but I don't remember what it was. So just be aware. Okay, I think that's it. Hopefully that was helpful. Did this in a little under 40 minutes, I think. Oh, it's a little over 40 minutes. We are going to... I really want to talk about the Golden State Major layout, but I feel like I need to do a different... Any bounce shots on that layout you see? Nothing that's like insanely obvious. Obviously, we're not looking at the layout right now, but like I would think that any of the Doritos as a potential bounce shot into something, but it's really hard for me to like evaluate bounce shots on guns up because things just don't behave the way that you'd expect. In fact, the only thing I could see, I'll pull it back. The only thing I could see is if you knew that there was a guy in the 50. The snake has a okay-ish... Oh, sorry, that's not visible. The snake has an okay-ish bounce shot from here into the 50. So if you look at this, it's pretty far, though. I don't even think it's doable. You have 2 options. You could either shoot here. Yeah, it's not going to make it. That's not going to make that. Or the other option is to shoot this one. And you might get it to bounce in. At the very least, you might make them a little worried. But that would be only in the case that you know he's in the 50 and because of that you can't make this move for free. So if you head check here and you're like, oh, he's in the 50, maybe consider backing up and shooting that gap. That's like the only one I can see that's pretty like worth looking at. I mean, I don't think that's a bounce shot. You might, maybe you could try this one. The other one I would look at is sorry, one second. I would consider this, or check it out at practice, is if you're in this tower still and you know they got to this Dorito, you could maybe shoot this bounce shot right here on this mini Dorito and get them to bounce over in this zone, essentially, this block. But I don't know if I would rely on it because you're really trying to stop them from moving instead of... the bounce shots are really good at digging people out of spots that are hard to dig people out of, but trying to hit people on the run or to prevent them from moving into a zone is like pretty hard. So yeah, no problem, Travis. Okay, I know we have some people that want to look at the Golden State layout. The only trick is that I really want to cover it in its own video, and I have a thumbnail for it. So here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna take a quick break. I'm going to, let's see. Okay, we're gonna take a quick ad break. I'm gonna set up the other stream while we do that, and with that, let's see, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna get this other stream set up, so hang tight. Gonna run an ad. I will then post the link when it's available, and then we're gonna switch over to that stream, because I do kind of want it to be its own video. So hang tight, give me just a minute. All right, guys. Sorry that took me a minute. Here is the... ooh, that's kind of awkward. Well, I can't link it because I'm technically still streaming elsewhere. I don't know why I can't see the chat anymore. So here's the link. Oh, that's not the right link. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Here's the link. This one's the link. Second one is the link. Yes, I will be doing the other stream for the Golden State Open on that other link. We got to do it quick. We only got like 10-ish minutes, so we're going to do it real fast. But I'm going to end this stream. I will see you guys over in that other link in just a second. So see you in just a second.